Driving force behind my resignation, which is child abuse.
Accusations ranging from neglect to physical abuse to sexual assault. The alleged victims, children. Good evening, I'm Bill Fitzgerald.
I'm Candace Burns. Earlier this year, CBS 6 confirmed that the Cumberland Children's Hospital in New Kent County is at the center of a sprawling state police investigation that dates back nearly 3 years. Since our first report, one of the hospital's therapists has been indicted and the longtime medical director has stepped down.
Tonight, a nurse who recently quit her job at the hospital is speaking out. What she tells our Laura French that she witnessed and what health department investigators say was captured on surveillance video. It's tonight's Problem Solvers investigation.
I, as a RN, do hereby resign from my position at Cumberland.
This registered nurse, who's asked not to be identified,
It's effective immediately.
reads from the resignation letter.
I continued to have nightmares of what I witnessed and experienced.
She submitted to the Cumberland Children's Hospital July 29th, the same New Kent facility she rallied behind just 5 months earlier.
They are startling accusations of abuse and neglect.
After CBS 6 uncovered numerous allegations of neglect and abuse against staff members.
He was unresponsive. He had bruises all over his body. He wasn't right.
Being criminally investigated by the Virginia State Police since October 2017.
When I saw that story, I was 1000% Team Cumberland. I'm like, I can't believe this. I have not seen anything like this. There's no way this is true.
As our investigation was unfolding, state health officials say they were just beginning their latest probe, one of more than 30 completed on the hospital in the last 2 years, which they say includes investigations into allegations of sexual assault. CBS 6 has obtained these state health survey reports, which confirm the Virginia Department of Health was on the ground here daily, February 13th through March 4th, to monitor staff and resident safety. And it was at that time this nurse of 14 years was about to see things in a whole new light.
I started to witness these things while state was there, while they were there, up our butts, for, day in, day out. That's when I started to see it. So I was absolutely flabbergasted at this and the fact that, people were still behaving inappropriately.
Like a staff member that is documented in this report as being involved in a, quote, incident of abuse on February 12th. Exactly 1 week after our investigation into the hospital aired.
This guy beat another autistic child on that unit who was verbal.
State health officials say a surveillance video showed a staff member touch, hit, and drag a patient on the floor. It goes on to explain while the patient resisted, the staff member grabbed the patient's ankles and pulled the patient to the floor. After the patient appeared to spit at the staff member's face while seated on a couch. Videos showed the patient's head and back strike the floor. It states the staff member punched the patient in the chest and stomach around 4 times before dragging him approximately 15 feet across the floor. The investigator noted the facility failed to take immediate action by letting the employee finish working until the end of the shift. The staff member was terminated the following day, which was the action this nurse thought her employer would take when she says a behavior tech assaulted one of her young patients in a bathroom around the same time.
And I went in to administer her medication. She spit it out. Not a big deal. I can redo that. But before I could even walk away, the behavioral tech hit her in the head and screamed at her. And then I immediately responded and asking her, why she did that. What did she think she was doing? And she tried to justify and said that she knew better. Well, this is a young girl who is nonverbal. She is autistic. She did not know better. And even if she did, that is no excuse to put your hands on a child or a patient.
The nurse said once the shock wore off, she reported what had happened to her supervisor.
To speak up. You absolutely have to. You have to, because otherwise, you're just as guilty as they are if you don't speak.
Cumberland Hospital tells CBS 6 the incident was reported to the state, but the allegation was determined to be unfounded. And the RN says the BT remained employed.
And this was off camera. It was in the bathroom. So it was, her word against mine. I am a registered nurse. She is behavioral tech. So there is rank there. However, it seemed to do no good.
But the RN said there'd be another incident with the same BT and a different patient.
And it has shook me to my core.
But this time, she said, it'd be caught on camera inside the hospital's day room.
This child was spitting blood. So when that happens, you hold a towel over their head, well over. So obviously you're not, restricting their breath. And so when they asked for a towel and I tossed it over there, she put the towel onto his head and then put her hand over his mouth and his nose. And so at that point, I screamed that she was suffocating him and she needed to remove herself.
The incident is documented as a deficiency in this report. It determined the facility failed to ensure their practice of placing a towel 4 to 6 inches in front of a patient's face during restraint.
Because people need to know it's not safe there.
In reviewing the hospital's history, state health officials pointed out a, quote, concerning number of complaints and reoccurring events, specifically 27 since January 2018 that involved allegations of patient abuse or harm, and an additional 6 in August of this year. One too many for this RN.
During the driving force behind my resignation, which is child abuse.
To return to the job she once loved.
My soul will no longer allow me to continue employment within a facility where children are knowingly abused.
She'd send this resignation email to Cumberland's CEO.
The children do not deserve it.
Walking away from her career in the name of children.
And I realized that by me continuing to work there made me a part of that darkness, made me a part of the bad. And once I had that realization and that shift in mindset, I could no longer go back.
If you were a parent of a child who's a patient at Cumberland, what would you say to them right now?
It may be best to get your child from that facility. Again, I'm not saying that it is all bad. It is not. However, what's it worth? Is it worth the chance that your child will be abused next? Is it worth the chance that it's already happened and they can't speak on it?
We reached out to Cumberland Hospital. The CEO sent us the following statement that reads in part, the 2 reference incidents were appropriately reported and investigated by the state. Neither resulted in a citation for attempted or actual injury to a child. One allegation was determined to be unfounded. The other required an update to our Crisis Intervention Institute training. Cumberland Hospital for Children and Adolescents has been and continues to be in good standing with our licensing and regulatory authorities. We are surveyed regularly and, like any healthcare facilities, address any deficiencies that may be cited. We are told that Governor Ralph Northam directed the VDH to be exhaustive in their investigations of the hospital. CBS 6 made repeated attempts to interview the governor and someone with the health department for this story, but both declined to go on camera. But the governor's office and the VDH released statements that can be found at WTVR.com. Working for you, Laura French, CBS 6 News.